So as we'll be reading the next couple of weeks, Truma, Tetzava, Kisi, Savayaka, Fokude, dealing with the Mishkan and the Big Day Kahuna. So we'll focus a little more tonight on the aspect of tzedakah, on the Yichuli Truma, on the mitzvah of giving charity, different aspects. So, as we all know, tzedakah is a mitzvah min ha-Torah. It's a biblical mitzvah. Discussion, which are the different sources. In fact, the Gemara talks about perhaps there's an asay, there's a positive mitzvah to give tzedakah, there's a negative commandment not to, in terms of how much and etc. So, the first essence of tzedakah we see is that from the language the Torah tells us, the yichuli truma, you shall take. And we all know it's a case of giving. Like we find by Avram Avinu, ve'etna ve'echa paslachem. Again, it should have been, and he gave them, but it says ve'echa, and he took. So our rabbis tell us, probably one of the most important yisodas regarding the mitzvah of tzedakah is that, as the Mishnah says in the beginning of Shabbos, greater what the Mishnah is talking about, a rich man giving a poor man charity. So the Mishnah tells us greater what the rich man gets out of the act than what the poor man. The poor man gets a meal or two, maybe three, and that's it. He has to go find some more food. The rich man, he's affected for it forever, eternally. In fact, there's differences between tzedakah and chesed. As the Gemara tells us in Sukkah, in three ways, Gedola Hachnasas Archim Mikabolas Pnei Hashkin. In three ways, tzedakah, in three ways, Gemilas Chasadim, acts of loving kindness, are greater than tzedakah. How, in what way? So the Gemara lists three things. Number one is, tzedakah only can be given to the poor. The chesed can be done to the rich and the poor. Tzedakah is only done with money. Chesed is also done with bodily exertion. Tzedakah is only given to the living. Chesed is even done to the dead. In fact, that's the ultimate chesed shel emes, when you help someone in a burial. It's not, because in the back of our minds, when we do someone a chesed, we think, oh, you owe me, whether we say it or not. But when it comes to chesed shel emes, kfur, we're not waiting to get paid back anytime soon. We're happy to do someone a chesed if they need the help of being buried. So we see from that Gemara, in terms of quantitatively, we see that chesed is greater than tzedakah. However, the Maharal points out something even more fundamental about the two. That fundamentally chesed is different than tzedakah. How is it fundamentally different? The chesed is fundamentally different is that when you're giving tzedakah, how does it happen, or it could happen? Usually either there's an appeal in shul, you're walking down the street, a beggar comes and asks you for money or for food, you get a letter in the mail, now you get email, you get a phone call, someone comes to your door. So what is it? It's an external factor. You weren't necessarily thinking about giving tzedakah at the moment, but an external factor happened to you, so therefore you say, yeah, let's give tzedakah. Okay, you're a good person, you want to help them, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not coming from within, it's coming from outside. Chesed is, it comes from within. As where's the classical case of Gemilas Chasadim of Chesed? We find by Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu, in the beginning of Parshas Vayera, he's recovering from major surgery, bris milah, 100 years old, and God makes it very hot outside, so no one comes by to bother him, because Avram, the man of Chesed. But God realizes after a while that it's causing Avram more distress and no one's coming by than it is from the physical pain he's in, the mental stress of not being able to perform chesed, helping someone, that's causing him a lot more distress. And therefore, So God sent the 3 angels dressed up as people, and Avram got a chance to do Gemilas Chasodim. He brought them the meat, the potatoes, etc. So they point out that why did God create that scenario for? Was it for the angels? Angels don't eat. They didn't even eat the food. It was just a fake out. Obviously, he did it for Abraham, because it's all about Abraham. And that's so. Besides the quantitative difference that it applies in 3 different ways, that Chesed applies to living and the dead, bodily exertion and money, and rich and poor. But there's a more fundamental difference. That Chesed is you do for yourself. You get the most out of it. Chesed transforms you. And that's another difference between, let's say, tzedakah and chesed. They're both aspects, but tzedakah is more result-oriented. In other words, the bottom line is, as long as the other person is helped. That, let's say, for instance, you drop a $100 bill out of your pocket, and a poor person picks it up. You get the mitzvah of tzedakah. You help this person in need. But to say, but you didn't even know about it, to say that it transformed you, how can it transform you? You didn't even know you did it. When it comes to chesed, chesed is looking at the other aspect. Tzedakah is looking to help you help the needy. It's the result of your effort. But by chesed, it's the act that you do that transform you. That's why the Rambam writes. Let's say you have $100 to give. He says it's better to give 100 times $1 than 1 time 100. The poor person himself, I'm sure he'd be happy with a $100 bill. How much can he do with $1? So that's a separate question. It's a fair question. The Rambam is not talking about that. The Rambam's not discussing from the side of the poor person. He's talking from the side of the giver. You know why you should give 100 times? Because every time you give, it transforms you. It has an impact on you. That's why God gave us so many mitzvahs, 613 mitzvahs. It's because it's for each act we do, we're affected. We all know we're affected by the environment. You walk into a tannery, you're going to come out smelling lousy. If you walk into a perfume store, you're going to come out smelling nice, assuming it's nice perfume. But the point is, we're affected by our environment. But even more so, we're affected by our actions. And that's why the Gemara tells us in Makis that when someone kills someone b'shogeg unintentionally, so there's the Arei Miklat, the city of refuge he goes to. He's a place to hide. And how did he know where to go to? So the Gemara tells us there were signs on the road. Hamilton, 20 clicks, Toronto, so here Arei Miklat, 20 miles, etc. So the Achronim asked, the later commentators asked, how come when there's another mitzvah, the Ola Regel, 3 times a year we have a mitzvah to go to the temple? So the question is, why aren't there any signs on the roads where the temple is? So how come when it comes to the Arei Miklat, the city of refuge where the person has to go, there's signs on the road where they are? When it comes to Arei Miklat, when it comes to Ola Regel, there's no such. So simple answer could be maybe because everyone knows where Jerusalem is, but not everyone knows where they are, perhaps. But on a deeper level, there's another reason. And because we know we're all affected by our actions and our environment. So it's twofold. Imagine like someone you killed, you ran someone over by mistake, or it happened. You're in the army, you shoot someone. So imagine, having to knock on the door and asking someone, you know where the Arei Miklat is? It's embarrassing to the person, number one, who has to ask it. But just as importantly, we're worried about the people who live near the Arei Miklat. You can have people knocking on your door and asking you the Arei Miklat. That means what? You killed someone. Although you killed them b'shogeg, but death is a terrible thing. That's what, today, we're very callous to it all because today we have, while we're eating our steak and french fries and ribs, we could be watching this murder, this rape, since we, I guess we couldn't function in society if we took every news story and we barely hit us, we'd go crazy. But there has to be a balance. On the other hand, like, okay, this person murdered, this killed, unless we know that person, it doesn't usually hit home. And that's a terrible thing that we get so callous to human suffering. We always have to be in touch. So therefore, we don't want that person to get accustomed. Imagine every day, oh, this person is a terrible thing, and that's why we don't want him to be in that environment. That's why the halacha is the witnesses who claim that someone killed someone, assuming that you go through the court case, it's the yada edim tiabo rishon. The edim themselves have to kill the guy. Because one reason is to deter false witnesses. It's easy to give testimony that someone's going to be killed and you're vacationing in Hawaii and someone else is killing the guy. If you yourself have to kill the guy you're testifying against, then obviously you got to make sure it's the truth, and it'll deter false testimony. But there's another deeper reason. Because let's say you saw the murder, so human life has been cheapened in your eyes. And therefore you have to go ahead and try to massacre and fight it. So this person who took away human life, you have to be the one killing him because to make up for the impact it had on you. When like today we see, like in Europe, I think the story, one of the Gedolim came over from Europe to America. I guess it was very hard to keep Shabbos when they came over to America. So I think one time he was walking in Manhattan, I guess one of the peddlers, I guess he heard them speaking Yiddish or something, and he just fainted, because this is his first experience that another Jew was being Machal Shabbos. So, obviously, so there are advantages of being, isolated and that, but the point being where, we see it all the time. So, again, it's very easy, that's whether we know it or not, a light in Shabbos in our eyes when we see other people. Obviously the cure of other things, but we always have to strengthen, whether it's Shabbos or anything, we don't realize the impact our actions or society has. So that's what they point out here, that's the tzedakah is result oriented, but chesed is about changing, about self-empowerment, in terms of this, giving with a smile, transforming yourself. And the both aspects are needed. You got to help the person in need, but you can't just do okay, throw them the $20 bill, or okay, here, take the food, don't bother me again. It's all in the attitude, as we see. But Orach Chaim writes in the beginning of Parshas Truma, when the Torah talks about giving them the first, public appeals for the Mishkan, and it happened right away. So it says the Torah, they gave the gold, silver, etc. Then at the end, a couple of psukim later, it says they gave the Avnei Shoam, the Avnei Meluim, the stones from the breastplates, etc. So the Orach Chaim, it seems to be out of order. That's the most expensive thing. So it should be first in the pasuk, not three psukim later at the end. It should be in the beginning. So the Orach Chaim says two answers. Well, he says three, we're only going to do two. The Orach Chaim says, number one is, he says, it's all in the attitude. That on a certain level, the Nishma of the princes were lacking, because they said, you know what? Everyone give, and whatever's left over, at the end we'll fill it. It's a great pragmatic way in terms of results. It's great from the arena of tzedakah. But it was lacking in the chesed, because you have to be transformed. You go ahead and, as a leader, you set the example. How do you get people to give? You give. It's not okay, because even though it wasn't true, but it gave the perception that they didn't value it as much. We know when we get excited about something, you got to call your friends and tell them right away, let's get everyone involved. They should have felt that joy and excitement. On that level, it was lacking. Like the Tain on Shlomo HaMelech about the homes. But in the second aspect the Orach Chaim talks about is we know in this world, B'zeyas apecha tochel lechem, next world is the time to relax, this world is to work. And that's why the Orach Chaim, you know why they put last? Because they didn't put any effort into it. It was easy come, easy go. That the jewels fell down from heaven and they just took them and gave it in. God doesn't just value the result, how much it's worth, but He wants to see the effort. And we see that in the beginning of creation, to Matan Torah, we see by Cain and Hevel. It says, the Torah says, the Hevel Hevi Gam Hu. And Hevel, we know Hevel's carbon was accepted, not Cain's. So the question is, why not? So there are many answers. But one is the Hevel Hevi Gam Hu. Hevel didn't just bring a carbon into appeasement. Gam Hu, he brought himself. He brought himself, and God saw he was giving of his attitude, and he meant it and he valued it. And that's why when Cain, he just ripped the fruit off and he gave it in, easy come, easy go, no effort. But Hevel worked very hard for his coming. He had to go through a lot of work, and that's what God loves, the effort. Like we see by Matan Torah, that really, if once the Jews left Matan Torah, really it should have lost its kedusha. But for technical reasons, technical reasons they kept it. But why would Har Sinai, the holiest place in the world, the Torah was given there, it would lose its kedusha? Yeah, because easy come, easy go. The Jews didn't do anything. They sat back and they kicked back. God did everything. Moshe, they just sat there receiving. For to bring kedusha in this world, we got to do it. In fact, that's why the difference between kedusha Shabbos and kedusha Yontif. There's a fundamental difference. We say Makadesh HaShabbos, and on Yontif we say Makadesh Yisrael V'Azmanim. So what's the difference between the sanctity of Shabbos and the sanctity of Yontif? Shabbos is what they call Kibbutz Makayim. No matter what, come Friday afternoon, come sunset, whether you're ready or not, Shabbos is coming. It's inherently kadosh. It's already set from Sheshes Shmei Bereshit. But Yontif is Makadesh Yisrael V'Hazmanim. It's a Jewish people. The basin, you have to go when you see the moon, Makudish, you have to actively go out and sanctify it. And therefore, even though now we have a calendar and it comes by itself, but from a fundamental point of view, the Jewish people bring the Kedusha Yontif. Shabbos, it comes by itself. And that's why some suggest, that's why we only have Friday Night Live on Shabbos. We only have Kabbalah Shabbos. Why don't we have Kabbalah Yontif? Why don't we have a Chol Dodi or something equivalent on Yontif? Because on Shabbos comes by itself. So we want to bring it in. We bring it in ourselves. We want to, because easy come, easy go. We want to show, at least put in a token effort. Put it in effort. However, when it comes to Yontif, it's redundant. Yontif's only here because of us. Makadesh Yisrael V'Azmanim, so we don't need a Kabbalah Yontif. And we want to get home and eat, but it's a separate issue. But we only have Makadesh Yisrael V'Azmanim, and then that's the pshat as well. We know we make B'samim on the Havdalah. Most of Shabbos we make Havdalah, and we make a B'samim Saturday night. So the question is, why do we make a B'samim Saturday night? Because we have a Nishma Yisrael, we have an extra soul on Shabbos, and the soul's leaving us, so therefore we're sad, so we take a smell of the spices. And how do we know we have a Nishma Yisrael on Shabbos? The Rashi tells us, we know it anyway, that's where we eat double, because that's why we're hungrier, we eat more on Shabbos, because we have to fill our soul up with food as well. So they point out that what about when Yontif falls out Saturday night? When you go from Shabbos to Yontif, do we make a Borei B'samim that Saturday night? We do not, that is correct. We only make B'samim Saturday night, but when Yontif falls out right after, no B'samim. The question is, why not? So, there's a fundamental question we have to ask ourselves. Do we have a Neshama Yisera on Yontif? On Shabbos we do. What about on Yontif? So that's the machlokas we showed them, the Rashbam and the Bali Tosfos. The Rashbam, I believe, says yes. Tosfos says no. So the question is, so Bishulma, the Rashbam says we do have a Neshama Yisera, and he says, that's my proof. How do I know? We don't make besamim Saturday night because we don't need a besamim because we didn't lose anything. We still have a neshama yisera. But according to Tosas, it says we don't have a neshama yisera on Yantiv. So how come we don't make a besamim Saturday night? The Tosas says, I'll tell you why. There's a very good reason, because there used to be a grandma's cookie shop. I think it's grandma's, not the same one anymore. When I was in YU, had these chocolate chip muffins, cookies. It smelled. It was a great. I just loved walking by. The smell was delicious. But there's one thing better than walking by and smelling, is actually going in and buying cooks and muffins and eating. I had my students bringing my coffee a muffin. Don't worry. And it's a different level eating them. Same thing here, Tosas. It's true we need the besamim usually Saturday night. You know what you don't need? We don't have a neshama. You say we lost it. But we'll have a Sudas Yantiv. We're going to be eating a big festive meal. That takes care of it. And Tosas says, and according to you, Rashbam, that you do have a neshama Yisera on Yantiv, so it's okay Saturday night. So what about when Yantiv is over? According to you, when Yantiv is over, we should make a besamim on Tuesday night. And we don't. According to me, it's good because I say you don't have one on Yantiv. You lost it Saturday after you have a meal. But according to you, the Rashbam, that you say that you have a neshama Yisera on Yantiv, so how come we don't make besamim on Tuesday night or Wednesday night when Yantiv is over? So Tosas rejects the Rashbam. But how would we answer the Rashbam? It seems to be a strong question of Tosas. How come there's no besamim on Tuesday when Yantiv is over, any night of the week, if according to the Rashbam you're losing your neshama Yisera? So there's a beautiful shot from the Avnei Nezer, the Shemi Shmuel, that says as follows. It says, I'll tell you the difference. Really the Rashbam's right, or he's just explaining Shita. You do have a neshama Yisera on Yantiv, but there's a big difference. And the neshama, we know what on Shabbos. What did we say? Really, the kedusha comes by itself. Easy come, easy go. Right after Shabbos, we try, we make kiddush, we do things, but ultimately it's an inherent kedusha from Sheish Shmei Bereshis. Shabbos is a special day, even if we did nothing. And therefore, Shabbos is basically from God, the kedusha. We didn't do much, so therefore, right after Shabbos, the Shabbos here takes off. We didn't work on it, it leaves right away. But Yantif, it's Makanish Yisrael Vazmanim. We brought in the Kedushas Yantif. So we brought in the Neshama. Okay, so Yantif doesn't leave right away, it takes time. It sticks around, it slowly goes away. So you don't need the quick smell of spices to keep you going. And that's the Yisod in life. And that's Olam Hazeh. Like anything, whether it's spiritual thing, whether it's business work, it's the more effort you put into something, the more special it is. And that's what it's all about. And that's why the Avnei Shalom were in the back end, because they lacked the effort. It just fell from heaven. That's nice, but you didn't do any effort. You didn't do any effort, so God doesn't value it. God puts you at the end of the pasuk. Right. Because the people who gave less but worked hard, that's what God's interested in. And that's what the Orach Chaim writes. Number one, the attitude is important, is a proper attitude of giving and all the effort you put in. That's what it is. That's what it's all about. It's the yichuli truma and not the yitnuli, because a person's transformed. That every time you do an act of chesed, tzedakah, the double type of tzedakah is the result oriented. The chesed is transforming you. And therefore, that's why the Torah uses the language, the one who's taking, the one who's giving is actually taking, because you get more out of it than the poor person.